Should you be buying or renting a house in Kenya? Should you buy or rent your house if you are a Kenyan living in Kenya? So this is going to be very specific for Kenyans because I understand the landscape there. I understand how things happen there. I understand how the rental market is doing versus the mortgage or buying market, right? Or ownership market. So should you be buying or renting your house? Now, I know there's a lot of information, a lot of argument, a lot of myths, a lot of perspectives around this issue. But I also want to weigh in, but I want to weigh in with logic. And what I want to do is to give you the power to make that choice yourself. So you're going to make the choice of, do you think you should actually buy or you think you should be renting? You should have all the instruments at the end of this video to make that decision on your own and say, hey, you know what, I think in my situation it's better for me to buy or it's better for me to rent. Because if we were to go into the details of it and look at each person's circumstances, then there's no clear winner of what you should do. But there are certain pointing factors that could help you determine if you are going to make a wrong decision, because buying can be a bad decision. Yes, buying can be a bad decision. And renting isn't always throwing away your money. So you want to go through some of these myths and see if they're affecting your decision, and therefore you end up making some decisions that are not actually financially okay. And there are other things to consider besides these financial issues when you decide on buying or renting a house. So let's get into it. As usual, this Ken's Money Matters. We talk about the money mindset, how to make that money, how to enjoy that money, how to manage that money, how to invest that money, and how to assure yourself of a lifetime of income. Basically, financial freedom. Should you be buying or should you be renting? This is a question that people ask all the time. And now that we're getting into this new year, most people have ambitions, they have goals of maybe buying a house, renting a house, moving to a different place. So you need to figure out what you need to do going forward, right? You need to figure out what's the best decision. Should you buy or should you rent? And Ken is here to help you make that decision quite easy. The first thing is you want to focus on the mindset drill that we had, that is always good to own a house. So before we start this discussion, you want to start it on an open slate. You want to start it with an open mindset of saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go into this process with a very open mindset, with a very flexible mind that can actually change if I'm presented with facts. So if I come and say, hey, you know what, you shouldn't actually be buying, don't bash me and say, hey, no, Ken, this is the most important thing. Buying is always good. Owning is nice, all those things. I know you were taught, and I know we were taught that owning a house is always a good thing. The same way we were taught about owning land as the only asset you could ever invest in. So these are things that we have to be ready to disband. These are myths we must be ready to go through and question them, especially in a changing economic environment. Things are constantly changing. Things don't remain the same. So if you remain the same with your thoughts and your ideas on how you are taught and what you saw when growing up, then you're going to have a hard time adjusting to the new economic environment, right? So I'm here to kind of help you disband the myths, but I'm also here to help you change your mindset around owning, your mindset around investing, your mindset around land, your mindset around building a house, your mindset about around renting. All these things, we have to question them, and you have to consider your circumstances and not just have this rigid perspective of how things should be. So number one is your mindset should be open and flexible to any idea that would benefit you financially, and not only financially, but in other facets of your life as well. So disband that mindset, question that mindset that you are drilled into, that buying is always a good idea, and you should always strive to either buy or build or own, whatever way you want to own it, but owning your own home where you live, your residential place. So of course, that also comes with the idea that renting is always throwing away money, because you're just giving your landlord your money every month and there's nothing you're paying for. You're not paying towards owning that home, and therefore you're literally wasting money. So we have to also question that idea of wasting money. You are not wasting your money if you are renting. Not all the time. Yes, there are times when you could say, I'm actually now wasting money on renting, but not all the time. So that idea, the general blanket idea of wasting money because you are renting, is non-existent in this community that we are building, okay? So approach it from that mindset, and then we're going to have a very good outcome in terms of making that decision. So the first thing you want to do when you want to consider the idea of renting or buying is you want to consider your circumstances always. Don't have a rigid mindset. What are your circumstances, right? Do you have kids? Do you want a stable place? Because what a home provides is stability. It provides you with a place you call home. The kids would call it home. They will enjoy being there. They go to schools around there. They probably have certain things that they do, like clubs around there. So there is an idea around owning that gives you stability. And so if you're at a stage of life whereby you require that stability, yes, it could be one advantage for you to own a house, because you actually need the stability. There's a reason you need it. You have kids, you have a family, you want them to be settled in a very specific place, because the disadvantage of renting in this case is the landlord can throw you out at any time. It's not your house, right? You can be given notice at any time. That can be an advantage, but a disadvantage as well, because now you don't have control over what happens with the house. You don't have control over what happens with that particular land. They can decide to sell it, especially in Nairobi right now, where developments are coming up everywhere. Chinese people are approaching people with nice locations, nice places, prime areas, so they can build these massive developments and make loads of money. And so if you are renting that kind of house and the owner says, hey, you know what, it's time for me to now sell this land, you have nothing to do. You have to move. But of course, owning comes with that stability. But you have to consider your circumstances. Do you require that stability at that time in your life? If you're a young person like me, no kids yet, no wife, you don't have any issue. You have no reason why you should actually be focused on owning a house and being stable in a very specific place. You can come and tell me today, hey, Ken, leave this place, I'm selling it out. I just carry my few stuff, take my car if I have one, then I'll go and find the next place, right? Easy peasy. I don't need any stability. I'm in Nairobi. I'm a young person. I have no kids who are going to be out in the cold, wondering what the hell happened to their home, those kind of things. Again, you could reach a certain stage in life where you're thinking, actually, I need that kind of stability. It could also be an age thing to a certain extent, right? You could be thinking, where I am now with my age, I think it's just good for me to be the same place, be sure that this is my home. I don't disagree with that. At some point, you need to have that clear mindset of like, okay, this is going to be my home. This is what I call home. So that's one thing you want to consider, your circumstances, your personal circumstances. The other myth is around this idea of appreciation, that once you own a house, the house is appreciating and now it's part of your portfolio. Now, we need to think about that thoroughly before we actually make a decision based on that myth. Now, not all the time do prices just go up and up and up, even though we've been lied to that prices always go up. But if you look at real estate prices in different areas, you will find that there are times when they come down. Prices never go like a straight line. Prices always have like a zigzag. But of course, we will only talk about when they go up. So we have been sold this myth that prices of real estate will always go up. There are times when prices can come down. It might not have happened yet, but it might happen at any point. So don't have this idea in your mind that your asset will always appreciate. And remember, if you say always appreciate, you have to actually value it and say how much appreciation. Because you could be buying a house that is worth 20 million Kenya shillings or building, and then you say it will appreciate, but it appreciates by 1 million or 2 million in like 5, 6, 7 years. Now, if you invested that same money somewhere else, and you look at that 6, 7 years, you made way more money. So you have to weigh that option of that idea of this house will always appreciate, this asset will always appreciate, and therefore it's just good for me to spend so much money buying it. It's not going to stick all the time, right? It's not something that is just absolute truth that your house will always appreciate in value. Yes, it might appreciate because it's an asset, but by how much? Have you done the figures? If you're investing 20 million in that particular house and you're talking of appreciation, have you doubled your money in 7 years? Because naturally in a normal business, in most investments, 7 years you should have doubled your money. Are you telling me if you invest 20 million in that house, you will make 40 million in the next 7 years? Maybe no. Maybe you won't have money to do that in a normal house. And especially in Nairobi City, whereby we see houses coming up every single day, we see new developments, we see better houses, we see better things being brought by these Chinese investors, Indian investors, Turkish investors, Somali investors. Everyone is coming up with their own thing, and therefore the house you built using 20 million some years back, in the next 5 years, is completely out of the market because there are new features that have been brought in at almost around the same price. And someone would be thinking, why would I buy your house at 40 million while there's a house I could buy at the same price of 20 million on the other side of the road with way more amenities and with way more features? So the idea of appreciation is just in your head sometimes. Don't consider it so much, but it is part of it. But run the figures. Run the figures before you make a decision whether you want to buy or you want to rent. Sometimes you would rent and then invest that money and probably make your 40 million while renting. Right? You could make your 40 million from your 20 million capital while renting your house. Then the next thing is age. There is nothing to do with age in ownership. Okay? I know I mentioned age somewhere that at some point you might think that I feel like I'm at a stage where I want stability. That's stability mainly. So it's you feeling that you are at that stage of life where you want stability. But the idea of people thinking that now I'm 30, I'm supposed to own my own home, that shouldn't apply. It's not about a specific age group that should own. It's about how you feel about where you are in life, your stage of life, your circumstances. So this idea of people thinking, oh, when you get to 35 or 32 or 33, you should be owning a home, you should have your own place, it doesn't apply as well. So you have to be very careful when people start talking about age and people start putting that age limit on, like, at this point I must own a home. You make the wrong decision in that case. You make the wrong decision, because if you go into buying a home just because you've reached a particular age, you're going to spend a lot of money without actually running the numbers and looking at the benefits of buying that home. You've not looked at the cost of owning it. You've not looked at everything else around buying it. You're buying it particularly because you've reached a particular age. Don't make that mistake. A lot of young people in the range of, let's say, 28, 29, 30, up to 35, in Nairobi right now, I've been running to these satellite towns. People are running to Kitengela, Kajiado, where they want to own homes. Because what? Because they've been told they're 32 and they need to own a home. That's what you are told. You are told that you need to own a home at some stage of life, and you'll be told what stage that's supposed to be. So they have all this land they've bought, and they have these places they have right now bought these massive houses. But did they need them at that particular time? Now that goes back to our earlier question of circumstances. You have kids and everything, you want them stable, no problem. You made a decision based on other factors as well, but not making a decision based on the fact that you are getting to a particular age. So you run into some place that is just out of nowhere, you go buy a home, now you own a home, but it's a home you're not happy with. You're not really getting the benefits of having that home. You're not really supporting the idea of having that home. It now drains you, and it actually delays you gaining your financial goals, or it delays getting to your financial objectives and goals, because you are so focused on owning, it takes away everything else, and then you can't even invest anywhere else, because now you decided to own a home due to the fact that you are getting to a certain age. The other thing you want to look at, and you want to run the numbers. Now this is where you run the numbers. What are your total monthly costs of renting and buying? And this can be different. In most cases, you could find that, let's say you're a young person, you're 28 years old, you're renting a house that's, let's say, 50K. Your income is around 100 or something, right? Now, if you were to now go and take, let's say, a mortgage, and you're going to be paying a mortgage of, let's say, the same amount or even more for 30 or 40 years. And now remember, mortgage has interest payments as well. Mortgage is going to tie you down for years. So in this case, why do you want to rush and buy a house? So you need to look at your monthly costs. You need to look at how much are you actually paying on a monthly basis. If I'm paying 50K to my landlord, that's how much I'm paying. There's nothing else plus utilities. That's it. I'm done. I don't have to worry about the roofing, the plumbing, all the issues that come with owning a house that we never even think about. I don't have to worry about maintenance costs. So in that case, I am very stable. I'm paying my 50K in a stable way. And if I needed to have more money to invest, I could then invest the money I was going to use for maintenance. So again, people never run the total monthly cost of actually owning your house versus renting a house. If you're renting a house for 50,000, it's 50,000 you're paying. If you own the house, and let's say you're paying a mortgage towards it, that house, or you bought it cash, any maintenance in that house that has to be done is on you. And therefore, those monthly costs must be run and must be calculated so that you can figure out how much they are. So you could find that you own a house, but your monthly cost of running that particular house is still 50,000 anyways. So you could have just rented the house, take the extra money that you're using for maintenance, put into an investment, 30, 40 years, you make good money. Then the next thing is consider your financial objectives. What are you trying to get at, right? If your goal is to, let's say, be financially free, is owning a home today going to be part of that financial freedom? So someone could say, hey Ken, for me, I just want to have a place that I call my own, so I don't have to pay rent and forget about rent forever, and that gives me a lot of freedom, and then I can now work on just feeding myself and building wealth. That could be a financial objective, and therefore that home, if you decide to buy, is a good decision because it's feeding into your financial freedom bit, because you're feeling like, if I'm gonna be renting, then I'm still obligated to work every month and pay someone. But if I build mine, then I forget about it completely, and now I know that I have a place to stay and nothing else to worry about. Now in that case, it fits in within your financial objectives. It fits in within your financial goals. So you need to consider what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to get at, financially speaking? If owning the house will make you lose track of that goal or will interfere with that process, then you don't have to buy immediately, because you're like, I want to achieve certain things before I can commit myself to buying a house. So consider your financial goals. Then the other thing in Kenya is this mortgage idea. The mortgage idea in Kenya is crazy. I find mortgages to be so unregulated, and the banks are so quick to actually take your house or take ownership of your house and resell them. Now, it's a very precarious position to be in Kenya, because there are no enough regulatory structures to protect the buyer or the investor, and therefore the banks still hold a lot of leverage. If you go to other countries like in the West, you're well protected. It's very difficult for the bank to get to a point whereby they are actually repossessing your house, maybe because you have a difficult period of time, of your life, or because you have some difficulties in paying for just a period of time, or whatever it is. Like, it takes a process for them to repossess your house, and they give you lots of chances. This is not the same case with Kenya. We suffer from a lot of trauma. People are always looking to put you down. People are looking to bring you down. People are looking for opportunities to also make money, because the bank knows that when they take that house and repossess it, they make way more money sometimes. They sell it at a higher price, give you something less, and they make all the money. So you find that there's no clear protection and clear structures for people who are taking mortgages. So a mortgage in Kenya is as good as a death sentence. It's crazy. So you have to work your A off for you to actually get to a point whereby you are paying off that mortgage diligently for the whole period of time, for the whole term. So mortgages in Kenya are some of the worst debts you could ever have, right? It's terrible. The terms are not actually nice. The interest rates are crazy. They change all the time, especially if you don't have a fixed interest rate. And if you have a fixed for a period of time, and then at some point it ends, it becomes variable, the bank just jump the interest to whatever they want to, and you have nothing you can do about it. Sometimes your earning capacity has not changed that much. Is difficult. Then the next thing is Kenya is still developing. Kenya is a hub of development. Right now, if you walk into Nairobi, it's just concrete jungle, becoming a concrete jungle with lots and lots of developments coming up. Now, it means if you rush into owning a home, you might not know what is coming up in that environment. So take your time. Don't rush into buying a house, because when you are renting, you can be flexible, you can move out, you can change, you can find something that fits you. But if you rush right now into owning a house, you never know what could be happening in your neighborhood in the next 5 years. In a country and in a city that is quickly and fast developing like that, you want to be careful before you make certain decisions. So please don't rush into it, because Nairobi is a development hub right now, right? Yeah, it's a hub of just proper investment money coming from all sources, and therefore you can never tell what's going to happen in the environment. The place that you're buying for, let's say 20 million, 10 million today, might just be worth nothing the next day, because you know what, houses have sprung up like crazy, and therefore the supply has gone way higher than the demand, and prices could just tumble. And then the booming population of Nairobi would put you in a better position to actually get real estate as investment opportunities. So in a country or in a city that is booming like Nairobi is right now, you could be better off getting opportunities for rentals and buying these properties as investment, rather than putting so much money in your own home that you want to own. So you could find that you have 20 million, you want to build a house, you want to buy land and build a house, for example. 20 million, you could find 2 nice houses in a very nice place that could be helping you get cash flow. So again, you want to consider, should you focus on owning the home, or should you focus on, first of all, investing, and then you have constant cash flow, then you can go and build whatever you want to build. It makes more sense sometimes to focus on the part of real estate as an investment, especially in a city that has such young, growing, middle-class population. In that sense, it will make more sense so that you tap into that opportunity, because it elapses after a while, right? Because at some point it will elapse, or it will just settle down. But at that time, when the population is booming, there's middle class, they're willing to spend on these houses as rentals, then maybe it is a good idea to focus on getting that money, getting that cash flow. So I hope this video gives you a very clear way in which you can consider your circumstances. And the other thing that I always say, run your numbers. Run your numbers in terms of what will it cost you to actually own a home, and if you were to rent a home for the same period of time and then invest that money that's going to cost you to own a home, are you in a position to make more money? So run your numbers. Make sure you know exactly what you're putting into a home. When you're going to buy, what are you losing? What are you gaining? How much are you losing? How much are you gaining, right? And what are the other options available in the market? What if you put that money in a different investment vehicle? Would it be safer? Would it make you more returns while you still rent? So consider all different options. Consider everything around your circumstances before you make a decision. But of course, there's no clear answer of whether it is better to buy or rent. It's a very specific or individual based question that would then require someone to sit down and tell you, okay, this is what I think, you should buy or rent. So I could sit down with you. Please approach me, Ken's Money Matters. my website is open, you will have my number, then we can talk about it if you are struggling with that decision. I hope that's helpful, guys. Until next time, I'm out.